Hey guys, I'm BISI Akins and welcome to Hi, I'm Black. It's a series of talks where we have informed discussions with Black people about their Black experiences and how they've navigated their field as a Black person. On today's episode, it is Hi, I'm Black and I'm a CEO, and I'm joined by the amazing William Adoasi, who is the founder of VITAE London, a purposeful watch brand that basically every single watch that is sold, they support the life of a young Black child by providing key resources for education. William has been featured on the likes of BBC, CNN, and his watches are owned by Richard Branson and the President of Ghana, to say the least. Welcome, William. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. How are you really? You know what? I feel like we ask each other, how are we? And we don't really answer the question. But it's like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm cool. How are you doing? Like, how are you really doing?
I would say I'm good. I think I'm in a good place. I think the weight of the season has been a lot to bear for all of us. And just like the regurgitation of all these things that I feel like we've suppressed for so many years.
Yes.
It's been a lot, but I'm actually in a good place. Like, I'm finding time to rest. I'm making sure there's balance in all that I'm doing. And yeah, I feel good. I feel good. How do you feel? How are you?
I feel good. I feel like it has been a lot going on, and it's been mentally draining to a point where it's like, yo, I don't want to pick up my phone. I don't want to do anything. It's just like, it's been a lot, but it has been a key time for me to reflect, to kind of take time to actually chill and figure out like what is actually going on, to self-educate myself on a lot of things too, because there's so much going on I didn't actually know about. And I was just like, okay, so it's taught me to be adaptable, to be learned, to, you know, just try and understand why, like be curious more. I'm always curious, but to a greater extent, right?
For sure.
So I gave you one hell of an intro, right? And I was just like, okay, cool. Accolades upon accolades. But talk to me a little bit more about your journey in life before VITAE.
Cool. So it's a bit of a long story, but so I'm from Ghana, West Africa. My parents moved over here 2 years before I was born. So I was obviously born and raised here. And then, so I grew up in South London across Camberwell and Peckham. And then age of 11, I got a scholarship to go to a boarding school in the Midlands. So for the first time in my life, I was out of my comfort zone, to say the least. And I was surrounded by people that didn't look like me. I was in, this totally different environment. And I think for me, that was the first time I saw that there was an inequality in the world. I think, when you grow up in, so to speak, the end, so when you grow up in the areas many of us grew up in, you feel like that's the only world there is. But then when you go to the fact that I went to boarding school, I was able to see that, whoa, like there's so much more to this world, and there's actually there's an uneven playing field that we all play on. So I think even from a young age, that really sparked something in me to one day level out the playing field. Finished school, came back to South London, ended up going to uni for a year, dropped out to start my first business, which was a sports academy, and then ran that business for 3 years, got it to 6 figures, and then we had to close that business down. So then I ended up going to uni part-time while working in the city, doing various sales jobs. And then when I had enough of that, I started VITAE.
That's an amazing story. It's an amazing story. And I've been watching the journey for a little while, and I've seen that I kind of just preed you a little bit. And you've been invited to do many keynote speaks, right? Many talks, and you speak a lot or speak heavily about finding the why and the importance of the why. What is the why behind VITAE?
Yeah, it's great. Well, VITAE actually translates to life. So it means life, and our whole mantra, our whole ethos is to be the fashion brand changing lives. And I would say my why is, the very clear why is us wanted to make an impact, us wanted to be the difference. But I would say what actually motivated me to do what we do is my dad's story. So my dad grew up in a village in Ghana, was the first in our family line to learn to read and write, broke a cycle of poverty through education that we'd been plagued with for years. So looking at his story, I would say is my why. But also my why is just the fact that I see myself as someone who wants to pursue creative pursuits, right? And I was working in the city as an insurance broker, then a recruiter, making really good money, but realizing money alone just didn't do it for me. So alongside my wanting to make a real difference and impact in the world, another one of my whys, if I'm just very honest, is the fact that I wanted to run my own business. I wanted to be doing creative things day in, day out. And I think if you can make your alignment and your why line up with a strong purpose, it just pushes you to build something a lot stronger than what I was doing, which was just working a job before that I just was doing just for money.
Vitae in Latin translates to life, and listening to your reason and how you said it aligns with purpose and finding your why, it makes sense. I don't know if you remember this, yeah, but we had an encounter.
I remember our first encounter. It was a
You
photo.
remember?
Yeah.
Was that the photo shoot? And you showed me the watch.
yeah, I remember.
And then you was like, do you know about Vita? And I was like, no, you You said that this is going to be one of the best brands and it's going to change lives. And that's exactly what it is doing.
Right.
And I didn't know you remembered that. I was just like, oh.
Yeah, because I think King brought you down and you were one of the... But yeah, I remember.
No, that's beautiful. So we spoke about it earlier and we said that we've been in tough times right now. And the word that's used to describe the times right now is unprecedented. And by definition, that means something that hasn't been seen before, done before, or known before, right? And if we go by that definition, looking at what we are looking at right now, that's not it. Because there's been cycles and cycles and cycles of police brutality, of racial discrimination, racial prejudice, or just racial inequality, cycles before our time, in our time, before our forefathers' time. And the only thing that's different right now, I would say, is that we have social media to amplify it. And that's the only difference, if I could say that. How do you really feel, or how do you feel about what we have been experiencing as a people, and why do you think it continues?
So how do I feel about it? I feel enraged. I feel frustrated. I often feel helpless as a person, which is weird because as an individual, I'm very optimistic. If I want to do something, I just go and make it happen. So to be in a place where I feel helpless is tough. It is tough. But I think for there to be true change, we can't expect to be doing things the same way we've been doing for so long and expect like new and different results. I genuinely believe for there to be true change, we have to be more strategic. And I would say this is potentially unprecedented times if we make the most of these times. I think the beauty of this season is that it's opened up the conversation, it's opened up the dialogue in a way it hasn't been opened before. And I think it's been opened up in that way purely because of the fact that we're all on lockdown. We're all at home because of this whole Corona and COVID thing that's gone around. And as a result, we're confronted with problems which we would usually just go about our day and ignore or just push to the side or just continue to suppress. So I think the beauty of this time is if people of influence, because whether people like it or not, we have been able to rise up corporate ladders. Some of us have been able to. Some of us have been able to rise up and start businesses. Some of us have risen up in government, etc. So the only time that this time will actually become an unprecedented time truly is if everyone in those positions of influence actually uses this time to apply pressure. And then not only to apply pressure, but to look for accountability afterwards. So we've applied pressure, we've said, okay, this is what we want to see you change. But in 6 months' time, do we still have the same energy to keep that pressure piled on? I think that's what will make this a unique time. Also, I think there just needs to be more focus on our economies. There needs to be more focus on our nations. If we're going to just keep it 100, this is a capitalist society, a capitalist world. So unless you're owning capital, unless you're owning land, resources, then your voice is diminished. And that's the sad reality of the world we live in. So in order for our voices to be stronger going forward, I think we need to see economics as the foundation for true liberty, because if we can get economics right, it gives us the power to persuade in politics. It gives us the power to push for reforms in other areas, because unfortunately the society is purely capitalist. So I think if there's more of a focus on our economics, if there's more of a focus on our nations back home, that's when this will become an unprecedented time. That's when we'll see true lasting change.
And what steps do you feel like people can take to actually start this economic change or this economic focus?
I think it's just about us being conscious of the fact that it's a problem, being conscious of the fact that our community doesn't cycle money as much as any other community. So other communities, a pound will go via the Asian community multiple times, via the Jewish community multiple times. But when it comes to the Black community, a pound will come in and we'll go and spend it on an external community. And the reason why this is so important, because if we're bringing the money to our community, then we have a stronger say with what that money does. So if we're seeing problems in our community and we need to create a new youth club, because the people in our community now have that power, we can then go and create that new youth club, for instance. That's just an example. So that money just does provide power for us to make the impact that we need to make. So I think, investing into our own communities is very key. I think those that do have the vision, those that have the knowledge and potentially even some of the connections should be looking at moving back to nations in Africa. And personally, my wife and I, we're actually looking to move, and my daughter, we're moving the whole family to Ghana, because I just see so much potential there. I see cities yet to be birthed. I see opportunity. Like, the beauty of Ghana right now is the most basic idea. It's not like here in the UK where your idea has to be phenomenal for you to fly. Like, the most basic idea in Ghana, because it's a developing nation, is providing opportunity for people to really expand and make that difference and impact. So yeah, I would encourage people who are in a position to look at Africa as an option, and those that are here to just, let's see what we can do to push into our local economies.
I love that. I love it. When you know, I went to Ghana in December, the first time, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I've been saying I'm going back to Ghana. As soon as the borders are open, you'll see me there. I'll be doing entertain, give me some trophy, gilly everything. I'll be wearing, I love. It's so peaceful, so beautiful. I'm Nigerian, by the way, if you didn't know, guys, but I absolutely love Ghana. We're not actually fighting, we're actually really good friends, right? Cool. So,
especially the cool ones like you. So.
So the Black man, can you list me some characteristics or things that you think pop into the minds of the wider population when they think about the Black man?
Yeah, I think there's a sense of intimidation of the Black man. We're seen to be a danger. We're seen to be intimidating. We're painted and we're perceived in a particular way as well. And all of media paints this portrayal. So it's no surprise that it's in the psyche of the masses that we are a particular person. But when you actually look down at the breakdown of stats, it disproves a lot of these myths that are just put into mainstream society. So yeah, we're seen as intimidating. We're seen often as less intelligent. The list can go on, but we are a powerful people. We're a strong people. And often I just think to myself, if our history wasn't great, if there wasn't something great of us, then why would they put so much effort into wiping our history,
right?
Into altering it and changing it? So, they have their perceptions, and I can clearly see why. I can clearly see the media's portrayal. I can see it all. But I think for us, it's important to just understand who we are and run in that, as opposed to fixing our eyes on what they say about us.
Yeah. And like you said, focusing on what we are and knowing who we are, if you could list characteristics of what you think when you think of a Black man.
Yeah, we're powerful, we're intelligent, and we have the possibility to be leaders. We have the possibility, just like anyone, to be great. We're we're human beings. We're fathers, we're sons, we're brothers. We are just like any other race of people. We are men that are trying to figure things out, that have vision, that want to see a better tomorrow. That's black men. That's black men.
And going off of the first list that you said, intimidating, less intelligent, right? You technically are defying all odds, right? As being a CEO of a luxury watch brand, born and bred. Was you born in the UK?
Yeah, born in London.
Born and raised South London, Peckham, all of
Mm.
that stuff. You are technically in spaces, quote unquote, that you shouldn't be in, quote unquote. Please, quote, because we can be in any space that we want to be in. You've been speaking in different places, TEDx, CNN. You've got the president of Ghana wearing a watch. You've got Richard Branson wearing a watch. You are defying all odds, right? So when you are in these spaces, have you ever been reminded that you are a black man?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, you're reminded all the time, and it's just subtle nuances, it's subtle words. Like I finish a talk, and it's like, oh wow, I'm so surprised you speak so well, and it's like, I've lived here my whole life. What did you expect? Like things like that. It's just hard for me to comprehend. But I just enter those spaces with my chest up. Like I enter those spaces, letting them know that I'm there. Like I don't try to shy away from those spaces. I want us to rule and reign in those spaces. And for me, it was just, that's why it was important that I started a watch brand. What a lot of people don't know is that VITAE was initially going to be a clothing brand. I built the whole business and everything just based around t-shirts. And then I realized that there's many of us in this space. And I would rather be in a space where there aren't many of us, so I could affect change and that I could inspire the next generation to just live beyond the limits that have been set for us. So for me, I just encourage many, many, many more of us to look to be that difference, to look to be that change, to fight to be in spaces they've said we should never be in, because we have every right to be there.
Yeah. And I was searching, Google search, list of black CEOs in the UK, right? And then it said to me, as of January 2020, on the FTSE 100, only one company is black owned. Why do you think that is?
And the funny thing is, that's probably not even black owned. I'm assuming that's black led, but probably not black owned. Yeah. It's an interesting one. It is a really interesting one because I think it's more complex than we often discuss. I think it takes more layers. And also, it's interesting that we fight to say we want representation in the board. And I think having representation in the board is just a smart business decision anyway, because you get insight into markets you wouldn't have got insight if it was just old white men in the board. Do you know what I mean? But at the same time, there is a part of me, and it might just be the part of me that's a reflection of my dad. That's just like, I don't have any kind of entitlement in me, if that makes sense. So I feel like when I see FTSE 250, we're talking about European companies. Here in the UK, we comprise, I think it's 3% of the population.
Yeah.
So I would love representation that's indicative of the population. So I think at least 3% should be. Do you know what I mean? If things are all measured, if things are all equal. And I just think they're missing out, and I think it's stupid. But at the same time, also, I just think we need to have a focus on, all right, what are the lists in Africa? What are the lists in our home nation? How can we build lists that rival the FTSE 100, the FTSE 250? Because these have taken most of these businesses have taken hundreds of years to build and develop. So I think our dream and our aspiration should be looking forward at a future where we have lists that compete against those lists, where we have black-owned businesses, where it's not just black faces there to front, but it's actually people looking after our agenda, looking after the agenda of our people, looking at our plights, putting pressure in arenas of politics, etc. So yeah, that's how I would answer that. Like, I think there needs to be more representation, and I think it actually even makes business sense for there to be more representation. But at the same time, our aspiration should be to build our own.
And speaking about that, yeah, us technically fighting for equality or to be seen on the likes of the footsie, whatever scale, or on the Forbes, is that like a fight that we shouldn't really be fighting for? Should we actually be fighting for, like you said, our own and building our own in our land, in our space?
It's such a tricky thing to discuss because there's so many nuances.
Layers, yeah.
Because you look at the UK and we can say, and I could say, and this is probably, again, my dad speaking through me, I could say, come on, it's their country, blah, 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 blah. Why are we fighting for it? And this is not, by the way, this is not to say that my dad is not anti-racist or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But we could have that mindset. But the way I see it and the way I think about it is, you look at the UK and it's only great because it took resources from our nations. A lot of the reason it is where it is today is because of the Commonwealth, which doesn't make any sense. They call it Commonwealth, but the wealth was distributed to one place. So for me, we do have a right to be here. We do have a right to build here. We have every right, because this nation would not be where it is without our people and without our resources. So we have a right here. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, I just want there to be more of an emphasis on our land and where we can build and where we can really rival. I think the point where when we get to a point where African nations are attempting to rival the West, I think a lot of the problems and ills that we face will begin to diminish, because even police brutality, for instance, it's going to be a lot harder for white-led countries to kill Black people when Black and African nations are strong and they say, what are you doing to our people? Like when they rise in their defense. And there's obviously things we need to correct in our own homes, in our own countries. But that's what I dream and I believe for, a time where not only are we thriving in the West because we've helped to build it, but then we have a thriving Africa. That's what I dream for.
Amen. Amen. Hallelujah. Yeah, I've been self-educating over this period of time, right? And I was watching an interview. It was an interview in like 1980 something, and it had 3 Black men on this white show, and it was talking about the representation of the Black African American men. Yeah, and it had 3 speakers, and they were just talking about how Black people are perceived, how Black people are treated, and the history that's been omitted, and how it's trickled sort of down to how we are right now. This was in 1989. Nothing different to where it is today, right? And then the man was talking about alleviating the stereotypes of the young Black man. And then he was saying something along the sorts of where Black young men will be striving, let's say there's thousands of Black young men striving to fill 4 spaces on the NBA that last for 4 years, right? And that's what they're doing. They are playing ball every single day, to fight for 4 spaces on the NBA that only last for 4 years. And there's not that many of us fighting for spaces in economics or in accounting or in being a doctor or being an entrepreneur or being whatever, right? And I was thinking, all right, cool. And then I look at the list of, there's only 1 Black-led company on the footsie, whatever, for CEOs that are Black. And I was just like, so 1, why is it that as Black people, we feel like the only way out, this is a blanket statement, the only way out is through the arts, the entertainment, the music, the sports? And how can we shift that from the entertainment, the sports and all of that to being a CEO of a watch company, or being an accountant in a firm, or having your own accountancy firm, or being a property developer? How do we shift it from being just music and sports and entertainment to things that actually have economic power?
For sure. And I do feel like things have improved. I think more people are aspiring to fill different spaces of society, but we've got a long, long way to go. And like, I hate the overuse of this word, but it links back to representation again. Like growing up, if the only millionaires you saw that were Black were bouncing a ball, or kicking a ball or singing in front of a mic, if those were the only millionaires you saw that were Black growing up, and you aspire, you have a big dream, you aspire, those are your aspirations, then like even just our sense teaches us that that's the path that many of us would aspire to go down, because that's the path we've seen as the path of success. So I think that's why it is important that we do have more representation. We do have more people striving in other arenas, but also being more loud about it. I think especially like British culture, there's a lot of like this false pretense and humility. And then it leaves the younger generation seeing the only loud voices as the rappers, as the footballers, as the guys with the Rolexes, the night, like those are the things they look up to. So I think it's about those who are killing it in other fields actually being a bit louder, not in a proud way, not in an arrogant way, but just being loud about what you've achieved so others can emulate it too. And yeah, there just needs to be more of a shift. There needs to be an understanding that there's money to, like, you can start the most basic business.
Yeah.
You can start a toilet tissue business and be richer than any basketball player. Yeah. And you can have residual income for the rest of your life. Like, so thinking as basic as that, once people get to grasp that and understand that, and there's more representation, I just pray and believe for a shift.
And what would you say to young Black people, or not even young, because I feel like anybody can start at any age, yeah, that want to go into starting a business, owning a business, and being the CEO, not only of the business, but of their life?
Yeah, I would say start small. I always give this advice whenever I share, because I think it's just been so crucial in me building what I've built, what my team has built, what we've built is starting small. Like so many people, and I think the beauty of so many like young Black people is we've lived in areas of suppression. So we get to a point where we're visionaries. We have these massive ideas and they're like mountains that stand before us. And what often happens is we see this mountain in front of us. We don't see anyone else that looks like us climb that mountain. So we just walk away. We say like, that's not for us, or it looks too difficult. Whereas if you can start small and if you can take a little step, then another little step. So that little step could be doing a bit of research. That little step could be putting a survey out to the whole community, seeing what they say, what they like, what they don't like. That step could be so many things, but what you realize is once you take step after step after step, you'll look back and you realize that mountain that was impossible to ever climb, you've got to the top of it and you're looking to climb another mountain and another mountain, because wins just create more wins. So I would just, encourage people to start small. Look at the best way in which you can launch the business with the little budget you have, with the little know-how you have. And that could literally just be a survey. That could be a survey, because if you do that survey and you collect 1,000 email addresses, now when you go to an investor and say, hey, I want to start this business, it has more of a backing than just an idea in your head. So it's just about taking those small steps, because the wins create more and more wins.
That's beautiful, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us today. I hope you guys have enjoyed learning about William, his journey, his story, and being a Black CEO and boss in it. By the way, I am wearing my VITAE watch. Gang, 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 gang. So make sure you check William out and buy your VITAE watch, because not only are you going to have an amazing watch, but you will be supporting a young Black person with education in Africa. Thank you once again so much. It's been blessings. I'm BISI Akins. You've been watching High and Black, and I'm a CEO.